Okay, for my inclusive leadership video over race, class, access, gender, and equity for Module 5, Assignment 4, AEP 855, my name is Lindsay Downing. Part 1 was choosing 2 articles. I chose the Mastering Inclusive Leadership article and the Inclusive Leadership Critical for a Competitive Advantage. My first article, Mastering Inclusive Leadership, broke down the difference between diversity and inclusion. Diversity has observable differences within a group based on characteristics such as race, gender, ethnicity, and age. The non-observable characteristics such as culture, cognitive, and experiential differences, such as where a person grew up, maybe their language, class, how they think, their college majors, what they do or have done, sports, debate, music, travel, etc., things that they have done when they were younger. Diversity is a visibly diverse environment or group, or diverse approaches and perspectives. Inclusion is the degree to which individuals can fully and effectively contribute to an organization, valuing individual abilities and contributions to that organization. So what is inclusion? It is the sharing of ideas from all and varied perspectives, people working together toward a shared objective despite their differences, creation of a culture where differences of thought and opinion are embraced. What it is not is anything that's happening without conflict, or people pretending to agree, or people ignoring their differences. The definition that the article gave for inclusive leadership is leadership that actively creates an environment in which diverse talent is fostered, whatever the packaging, and in which diverse teams operate to their maximum potential. I talked about seeing through a lens, looking at how you see yourself, how you see the world, and how you see yourself in the world. It also explained cognitive blind spots. We don't know what we don't know. Self-reflection and awareness can help prevent cognitive blind spots that inhibit inclusive practices. So this next slide shows a little example that the article gave that I thought was interesting. So the inner circle shows different things that can change our perspective or how we see the world, and then the outer circle kind of deals with that as well. So I thought that was pretty interesting because everybody is different, and how we're raised and the situations that we're in change our view of things. Practices for inclusive leadership. The 3 things were active listening, step back, step up, step back, collaborative mindset, give people the benefit of the doubt, respectful challenges, agree to disagree, warming versus chilling effect. And a quote that I liked from the article was, when interactions between people from different backgrounds have learning from each other as a goal, it eases the potential tension between them, giving missteps less significance. Trust is fostered. Article 2, which was inclusive leadership, critical for a competitive advantage. This kind of combined diversity and inclusiveness and gives an example of how they could or go hand in hand to create that inclusiveness in a leader. To be successful, organizations and corporate leaders must embrace the differences people represent and demonstrate they are inclusive as well as diverse. First, I talked about global trends, which I found interesting. The workforce is advanced. Industrialized economies are constantly maturing. The proportion of women in the workforce and in decision-making positions will and is increasing. Increasing recognition / acceptance of the gay and lesbian lifestyles is increasing. People with disabilities are increasingly represented in the workforce, and several generations of different needs and learning styles are constantly increasing. Diversity in the global context can be defined as visible and invisible differences, thinking styles, leadership styles, religious background, sexual orientation, age, experience, culture, etc. Inclusiveness is the quality of the organizational environment that maximizes and leverages the diverse talents, backgrounds, and perspectives of all employees. Diversity is the mix, inclusiveness is the lever. Organizations generally focus on gaining a diverse group of employees, but struggle with retaining the right talent. So a lot of times organizations focus on getting diverse employees, but they can't get the diverse employees that have the correct talent that works for them, and this in turn causes a dysfunction within their organization. Research suggests that the answer lies in the mindset of the leaders and creating a culture that is inclusive instead of implementing certain policies and procedures. So therefore, the role of the leader is crucial in driving performance in a globally diverse and inclusive environment. One of the things the article really pushes is culture agility. So it starts with inclusion, starts with culture agility, which is the ability to effectively navigate, communicate, interrelate, and function well in diverse culture settings. Cultural agile leaders are adaptable and flexible. This in turn reduces risk and maximizes opportunities to achieve performance and results. Developing this culture agility starts with an open attitude, which then leads to self-awareness, other awareness, knowledge, and skills to apply this knowledge. Leaders agile enough to diagnose team dynamics exhibit change agent behavior, which is very important. Leaders who are unable or unwilling to use this change agent behavior can negatively impact the organization in a number of ways. Unconscious bias and grooming of individuals, unequal standards, a lag in diversity, and inclusiveness to further client relations and grow accounts, and the inability to retain talent. It can also cause focus on micro behaviors, small, subtle, often unspoken and unconscious behaviors that communicate dispositions, attitudes, and sentiments. Body language, voice tone, and facial expressions can impact positively or negatively, putting some team members at a disadvantage and others at an advantage. There were 4 key skills that are fundamental to attaining that cultural agility. Cultural due diligence, process of adequately assessing the possible effects of culture and relationships. Style switching, which is the ability to use a broad and flexible behavioral repertoire to accomplish one's goals. Cultural dialogue, ability to illuminate cultural underpinnings of behavior and performance, close the cultural gaps, and create synergy through conversations with employees. And cultural mentoring, which is the ability to advise, teach, and coach individuals in one's spheres of influence to recognize the cultural underpinnings and consequences of their behavior, understand the culture and behavioral requirements of true inclusion, and support change through inclusive behaviors, practices, and approaches. Last but not least, I really like the steps that they gave to becoming an inclusive leader. They were very basic and cut and dry. Check your assumptions and biases. Assume positive intent. Slow down your responses. Scan social dynamics and interaction patterns for exclusion behaviors. Treat everyone as your number one. Deepen self and other awareness. Engage and motivate others in learning about differences and experiences non-judgmentally. Engage in constructive conversations to prevent, reveal, and transform exclusionary patterns and behavior. Provide individual feedback and coaching to transform exclusion, and model inclusive behaviors in your sphere of influence. Part 2 was how can an administrator successfully apply inclusive leadership in their schools? So I took some of my information from the leader that I chose to research earlier on in the course, which was Michael Fullen, as well as our textbook that came with the course, and just a little bit of knowledge from the different articles that I read for this assignment. Inclusive leadership starts from day one, I believe. I also believe that administrators have a very difficult job in bringing together teachers to build the morale of the school. I often say that teachers are one of the hardest audiences to present in front of. I think we're worse than presenting in front of students because we can't sit still and we can't focus. One of the quotes from one of the Michael Fullen articles that I had researched earlier on in this semester was, "A principal today needs very solid team building skills that build teacher capability to work together collaboratively." And an example he gives in the article is that a principal can accomplish this by establishing PLCs, which are considered professional learning communities. By doing this, he suggests that you set a very clear set of expectations for the work in those PLCs, and you do that with the principal and the group that's going to be in that PLC. Another thing that he discusses is how administrators can create inclusive leadership by learning from one another and helping each other throughout the district, not just in each individual school. So he talks about coming together as a whole district and not just focusing on one school and one's teachers. As the whole, the goal is to create widespread ownership, which in turn creates intrinsic motivation to put in the effort to get better results through shared ownership. So administrators and teachers are all working towards a common goal and feel that ownership in doing so. So they all feel a part of the ownership, as well as principals at another school or teachers at another school. I think one way administrators can successfully apply inclusive leadership is through leading by example. And I took a quote from our textbook that we had this semester. Exemplary leaders set the example by aligning actions with shared values. This shows the teachers that they are passionate about their career and want to help make a difference. I think this is huge. I've taught at 3 different schools in the past 10 years, and if a principal was actively engaged, it really changed the way teachers acted on a daily basis. My boyfriend and I also own our own business, and I'm constantly saying our employees will follow what we do, not what we say. I also took a quote from the Bob Davis video that we watched prior in the semester, jump in the trenches with them and pull them. Bob Davis didn't care that the men couldn't speak English. He showed them how to physically do their job. I think principals can learn from that, bring the teachers together to build on their individual strengths. Administrators will have to build relationships with teachers to understand those individual strengths. So that involves them jumping in the trenches with them, going in their classrooms and actually seeing what they're doing on a day-to-day basis. Another thing that I took from our book is where they discuss the importance of connecting with people in person, which is kind of what I just talked about in Practice 5, Encouraging the Heart. They discuss how administrators, or in the book, you should make a point to actually discuss with people in person. So I suggest administrators could make it a point to stop by and visit with teachers in their rooms at least twice a semester, which I don't think is asking too much. I believe inclusive leadership can be applied in schools, but it takes a driven administrator who is willing to put forth the extra effort. Let the teachers know you believe in them through your actions and don't just tell them, show them. Say thank you and don't take anyone or anything for granted. And last but not least, celebrate teachers' accomplishments once a month through either staff recognition banquets or maybe something like Final Fridays, where the last Friday of the month you meet at a local restaurant after work or have a little get-together that's outside of the workplace where you can get to know them in a more personal setting or something that just draws you away from that normalcy or crowd that you're always in. Part 3 were challenges of being an inclusive leader. A big challenge when it comes to inclusive leadership is confusing diversity with inclusiveness. In a school system, a school may have a very diverse population but not be utilizing the different skills of that diversity. It could also be the exact flip side of that. The schools could also have zero diversity or very little and therefore struggle with gaining varying viewpoints or ideologies. Another challenge would be getting to truly know people and understand what intrinsically drives them to help them become better teachers and or students. I think that would be a huge challenge, as well as a third challenge would be building genuine relationships with all teachers and staffs. Some administrators that I've taught under have 95 teachers, anywhere from 95 to 120, and 25 to 35 support staff members. I'm sure they're overwhelmed with running the daily tasks of the building, and adding building true relationships may be a challenge on top of that. However, I do think it is a feasible task to take on, but it would take time and initiative on the principal's part. In the long run, I do believe it would be worth the time spent. And the last slide is my bibliography. I have my 2 articles there, the textbook from this section, and then the article that I used earlier on in the semester from the Michael Fullan source. I hope you guys enjoyed the video and learned a little bit about inclusive leadership. Thanks for watching.